The rain poured down in sheets, turning the streets into slick rivers of water, each flash of lightning illuminating the night sky. Officer Daniel Cole's radio crackled to life, his own voice drowned out by the static of an emergency call. "Officer Cole, come in," the dispatcher's voice came through, frantic and tense. But Daniel didn't respond. The storm had knocked out most of the communications, leaving him stranded in the middle of nowhere. With his phone dead and his flashlight flickering, Daniel had no choice but to venture deeper into the woods. A search was underway for a missing officer, and the desperation in the dispatcher's voice haunted him. He hadn't seen another soul for miles, but there was something. Something out there. A pair of glowing eyes watching from the trees. And then, out of the rain, it appeared. A German shepherd, thin, wet, and covered in mud, emerged from the shadows. Its fur was matted, its eyes weary, but it was unlike any stray Daniel had ever seen. It was staring directly at him, with a calm intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "Hey there, boy," Daniel called, his voice hoarse, unsure if the dog was friendly. But the dog didn't move. Instead, it simply stood there, its head slightly tilted, as if weighing his every word. The wind howled, and the dog began to trot toward him, stopping just a few feet away. Daniel knelt down, his hand reaching out instinctively. The dog didn't flinch, but allowed the touch, its eyes softening just a bit. For a brief moment, Daniel forgot about the storm, the missing cop, the endless hours of searching. He found comfort in the presence of this strange dog. But it wasn't long before he realized the dog wasn't just a wandering stray, it was trying to tell him something. Without warning, the dog turned and began to walk away, glancing back to see if Daniel was following. And Daniel, feeling a sudden, inexplicable urge, rose to his feet and followed. The dog led Daniel through the thick underbrush, the air heavy with the smell of wet earth and rain-soaked pine trees. The storm showed no signs of easing, but the German shepherd moved with purpose, its every step confident and swift. The only sound was the rustling of leaves and the pounding of rain against the ground, a rhythm Daniel was quickly falling into. "Where are you taking me?" Daniel muttered under his breath, half expecting the dog to turn around and bark at him as if scolding him for not understanding. But instead, it simply kept moving forward. Minutes turned into hours, the woods growing darker as the storm raged on. Daniel's fatigue was beginning to take hold, but he pushed it down, driven by a sense of urgency. He couldn't shake the feeling that this dog, this stray, knew something he didn't. Something important. Suddenly the dog stopped. Daniel caught up quickly, the rain soaking through his uniform. He was about to ask the dog why it had stopped when his eyes caught the faintest flicker of movement in the distance. A figure. A person. Daniel's heart stopped. The figure was slumped against a tree, barely visible in the dark. His eyes widened in recognition. Officer Michael Hayes, missing for the last 36 hours. His body was bruised, his uniform torn, and he was barely conscious. Without thinking, Daniel rushed forward, kneeling beside Michael. The German shepherd stood by his side, quietly watching. "Michael!" Daniel shouted, shaking him gently. Michael's eyes fluttered open, his voice weak, barely audible. I thought I was done for." Daniel didn't let him finish. He quickly checked for any signs of severe injuries, but there was no time to waste. He needed to get Michael out of here. Grabbing Michael by the arm, Daniel helped him to his feet, using every ounce of strength to keep him steady. The German shepherd, ever vigilant, moved to the other side of Michael, as if it was guarding him. The storm still hadn't relented, but Daniel didn't care. They had to move. He urged Michael forward, but something stopped him. The dog. It stood at the edge of the woods, looking back at them with a deep, soulful gaze. "Come on, boy," Daniel called, his voice strained, his eyes never leaving the dog. To his surprise, the dog didn't hesitate. It ran back to them, but this time, it didn't stop. It barked once, then took the lead, guiding them through the dense forest with a newfound urgency. The further they went, the more Daniel realized that the dog wasn't just leading them to safety, it was guiding them to something else, to a deeper purpose. Daniel could feel it in the way the dog moved, in its quiet command. The woods were treacherous, but the dog knew the path like it had walked it 1,000 times. The storm finally began to let up, the rain slowing to a drizzle as they emerged from the woods. Daniel looked around, the lights of the police vehicles barely visible through the trees. They had made it. But as they stepped into the clearing, something caught Daniel's eye. The German shepherd stopped, turned, and looked up at him once more. It was as if the dog had fulfilled its mission. Its work was done. "I'll take it from here," Daniel whispered, more to himself than to the dog. But as he looked around, the realization hit him. There was no sign of the dog anymore. It had vanished into the night, as if it had never been there at all. Back at the police station, Daniel sat in the corner of the break room, Michael being tended to by paramedics. The storm had finally cleared, but the weight of the night still hung heavy in the air. The entire force had been searching for Michael, but it was the stray dog, one no one had ever seen before, that had led him to safety. As Daniel reflected on the strange series of events, his thoughts kept returning to the German shepherd. He couldn't shake the feeling that it had been more than just a coincidence. That dog had saved Michael's life, but it had done more than that. It had given them hope when all seemed lost. For weeks, the police force tried to track down the stray dog, but no one had seen it again. It had simply disappeared, leaving behind a legacy of mystery and gratitude. But for Daniel, and for Michael, the dog would never be forgotten. He would always remember the way it guided them through the storm. A silent guardian with a heart full of purpose, and whenever he passed by the woods, he swore he could hear the faintest bark. Carried on the wind, a reminder that sometimes heroes don't wear badges. Sometimes they have 4 legs and a heart full of courage. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.